roster the best we can, looking at the organization top to bottom, trying to figure out what's best moving forward throughout the entire football operation. So that being said, I'll open up for questions.
Why do you think you?
Who does this fall on in your mind in terms of the performance of this season?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, myself. I mean, we're not good enough. We didn't play well enough. Got to do a better job assembling a roster. With more talent, so we can go out and compete at a higher level. So look inward, first and foremost.
I know you thought otherwise when we spoke to you last time about whether you're going to come back. You were pretty certain you would be back. And did that ever waver? And what did you think when you did hear the news that ultimately today? I don't know if you got, like Brian said, he spoke to John specifically and he was told he was coming back today.
Yeah, no, it never wavered. Never wavered from last time we were here from my feelings there.
Joe, how much of your future success is obviously tied to bringing in a quarterback here this offseason?
Yeah, it's the most important position in football. And you look at the roster right now, Tommy's the only quarterback on the roster, so that's definitely important to any team in the NFL success. So that's something we'll definitely be looking at.
What are you going to be looking at? What skills, what kind of characteristics do you?
Yeah, I don't want to get into specifics on that, but we've done a lot of work on the college guys. John mentioned earlier that we look at free agency. We can also look throughout the draft, potential trade opportunities. So we'll look at any avenue we can, to upgrade the position. And we've talked before in these situations. It's the film is one part of the equation, and then from a draft standpoint, you really got to get around these kids. I think it's important, part of our process that we try to get around these kids every year. So when they are free agents or a trade opportunity presents itself, you've spent an ample amount of time with these guys on who they are as people and their ability to learn and process information. So,
Do you have any regrets about not adding a quarterback from the draft last year?
I'm happy with Malik, where he was, and the draft class in general. I think I know those guys played well. They did. They played really well. I think 5 out of 6 of those guys played over 50% of the snaps, and Darius there towards the end was up around 40%, in terms of play time total. So I'm happy with the core foundation that we were able to acquire through last year's draft, and I think those guys will be key pieces moving forward.
Joe, on a week-to-week basis late in the season, were you aware of where your draft status was?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, so 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. So
Yeah.
when you got to 1, it's not getting to 1, you're losing to 1, obviously. Was there any thought in the last couple of games that, we're at 1 here, we need to try to win, but 1 looks pretty good if we need a quarterback?
Yeah, you're always going to go out and try to win. I know John addressed that earlier. As long as the newer Giants and the Marin and Tisch family are on board, like, we're going to go out and try to win games, and that's just that's what we believe in.
Joe, there's the thought that when a regime is entering like a must-win kind of year where you just were told you're coming back, that a GM and a coach will act out of self-preservation. Like, I got to spend a lot of money, have the best possible team, trade future draft picks to get them. How will you balance that versus that might not be the long-term interest of the Giants, of spending free agency and trading future draft capital?
Yeah, I understand the question. I've got a tremendous amount of respect for the Marin family and the Tisch family, and I would never do that. I understand we're gonna build this thing the right way, and I'm not gonna do a Hail Mary for self-preservation or anything like that. We have a plan in place that we believe in, and we're gonna stick with that. And again, I've got a tremendous amount of respect for ownership and what they believe in, and we have really good communication with them, and they understand where we are and where we're trying to go. And there will be no Hail Marys.
Are you under it all? They didn't get enough time to fully realize that plan?
No.
So 1 year turnaround?
Listen, we're here. We're picking 3rd in the draft. As we built this thing, Daniel had the ACL a year ago. Not knowing how he was going to come back, we also had to be conscious of what may be on the horizon. So, you're kind of working on parallel tracks. So we're sitting here with $40+ million in cap space and over 100 in the following year. So some teams are in this situation where maybe they need a quarterback and they don't have the financial pieces or the draft resources. So we're in a good shape from that standpoint in terms of improving, the roster via free agency, trades, or, through the draft. And I've got a lot of confidence in, the people in the building, the process, and, I've got a lot of faith in the plan that we have in place moving forward.
Joe, are you under the belief that you need to make the playoffs next year?
No, again, we gotta continue to build it the right way, and if we have a really good roster and we get close, and again, I think John said it to you guys earlier, there's progress. And we're at 3 wins, we didn't make progress in the direction we wanted to this year, and it's not good enough, and it starts with me, and I understand that. But, to have an ultimatum, you make the playoffs, you don't, that gets in a little bit of a question earlier, like that changes things, but that's not it. Like John believes in the people in the building, and Steve, and, they're giving us the ability to build it the right way.
What were your conversations like with John on Friday? You said he was broke.
Yeah, I mean, it was with Dave was in there too, we're gonna keep those conversations private, but, they were productive. Good communication like what we always have, we talk to John on a daily basis, so Friday wasn't like some out of the ordinary, situation. We have good conversation all the time, whether, it's at practice, in the building, on the phone, whatever it is, so we have constant communication.
You've referenced, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, you're good.
You've referenced having faith in your plan, and obviously, on the outside, it looks like it's going backwards. 9, 6, 3 wins. What is that? And what can you articulate that is going to give faith to the fans who are obviously paying money to come to these games that it is going to be different?
Yeah, I understand your question. Again, it goes back to a little bit what I said. We're not digging ourselves out of a financial hole or a lack of draft capital. Again, we made a decision with Daniel after that the playoff run. And, the way we structured the contract was we're going to do the best we can to try to surround him with weapons. Upgrade the offensive line, which we did this year, and see how far we could go with Daniel. And unfortunately, it didn't work out, but at the same time, we're not, our hands aren't tied behind our back financially. We're in good shape. We're in a good, salary cap situation, and we have, draft capital to make changes. And again, I've got a lot of confidence in the plan, the people in this building, and our process that will do that.
Joe, I know it's early. How would you evaluate the quarterback class, this current?
Yeah, I don't want to get into specifics. We've done a lot of work, and again, until we get to February or early March in the combine and can get around these guys, that's when the opinions really start to take shape. Once you get into March and early April, and you can get around the kids.
Does it concern you though that there are 2 teams ahead of you that potentially could be a quarterback as well?
We got control what we can control. Nothing we can do about that.
Joe, what did you think when you saw Shador throwing the ball with the league in the streets?
Yeah. That one caught me off guard. Obviously, I knew, the Heisman Trophy ceremony was in town. I didn't even realize that Shador would be in that. I guess he was supporting Travis, but yeah, that was cool and unexpected. But the fact that those two have a relationship, I have not seen that before. An NFL receiver and a quarterback prospect playing catch down, New York City stuff. That was interesting.
Joe, why?
Shador then said something like, can't go, when the week you guys had the #1 pick, he said something like, can't go higher than #1, I already know where I'm going. That kind of thing. It makes people wonder if you've given Shador's camp any indication that he should go.
No, we haven't had any conversations with his camp on any of that stuff, and we don't really control any of that stuff. So again, we got to control what we can control.
Joe, both John and the players spoke about the positives of continuity, but when the results aren't there record-wise in the direction you want, what benefits do you get from continuity in GM and head coach?
Yeah, again, we're trying to build this still. Again, I know I spoke at the bye week. I believe it was 18 and 22 starters coming back. Where when you first get here, where we were from a salary cap standpoint, and trying to prioritize, how you were going to build it, where you were going to address certain things. It takes time to get to this point, and then, again, we were talking to some of the defensive guys today in our exit interviews, and Bobby O, for example, like 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. He's on 4 different defenses in 4 years. So it's, as you're talking to these guys, and you realize how hard it is to learn some of these new systems. You got young guys that are getting their feet wet, that are just finally starting to feel comfortable in the systems now. So, I do think it's important, and, this is hard, and it takes time. And, I think the continuity factor is important, and, hopefully we see that come to fruition, in 2025. 2025.
Joe, why are you and Brian doing separate pressers today? It seems like in the past at this juncture, you guys typically meet us together.
I've been in 6 hours of meetings today. You can talk to Dion about that afterwards. So I've been pretty busy. Just came up for air. So
Joe,
when it comes to your-
you had 10 different offensive line combinations this year, which was tied for the most in the league. Last year, you had the same thing. I know one of the things you talked about when you first came here was solidifying the offensive line. Where do you think you are in that respect, and how important is it to galvanize that group?
yeah, that's a good question. I felt pretty good about it through the first 6 weeks, and when AT went down, there's certain players on your roster that are difficult to replace, and I would put him in that category. So again, when we were rolling with those 6 guys, I felt good about it. We made significant gains in terms of the amount of sacks. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think we cut it in half or close to cut in half compared to a year ago. So I did feel good about the offensive line, up until that point. And then I would even say after the bye week, once we had some more injuries, we've given up 14 sacks, and 6 of those came against Dallas. Last 2 weeks we didn't give up any sacks, so not as bad as the year before. So I do think there's some improvements. Again, for the last 2 weeks to not give up any sacks, with the different amounts of guys that were in there. So I do think it's better. So all the guys are coming back except for GVR and Stinney are the 2 UFAs amongst that group. Hubbard as well. So there'll be good competition there. Obviously, the right guard spot's open, and that's something that we can look to address. But I thought Jermaine played well when he was at right tackle. He really helped us out. I believe the left tackle, and showing his versatility was good. John Runyon. Again, you try to sign these guys. You look at the durability, and you try to sign guys that are going to be healthy. He hasn't missed a game in 4 years, and you sign him, and he comes from a winning organization and provided really good leadership for us. And was injured, and then John Michael had the injury as well. So you hope one of these years the injury gods would take care of us, and we could be healthy the entire season up front. Because you watch these games on Sundays as you get late into December, and you're looking at these offensive lines, you're like, gosh dang, that's our starting 5. It'd be nice to have in December. So again, that'll always be a priority for us moving forward. It was tough last year in 2023. The way we played, and it's part of the off-season priority this year. And I feel good about the 4 that we have coming back, and the depth and the competition we'll have.
Joe,
Jeff,
when you look at your draft class this year, we know how productive they've been. You obviously talked about it. John mentioned it. The process you used this year with this draft, is it the same process, or how has that changed from year 1 to year 2, and then year 2 to year 3 for you, your department, for scouting and everything else?
Yeah, year 1 you come in and you really, Brandon Brown was the only addition, for that first draft. So you're working with a room full of people that you're still trying to figure out. Some guys are really good at background, some are really good at scouting and evaluation and the round value. So you're trying to figure that out year 1. Year 2, we made some changes. We brought in Chris Rossetti and Dennis Hickey, and Calvin was came on board this past year. So the process isn't much different. I'm still learning, always learning. I think it's important, and I reflect on some of the decisions we made, and maybe where there was a blind spot, or I turned a blind eye to some things that I learned from. I think that's important. Year 3, good process in place, the right people in place. I got a great scouting staff. It's unique that we took a player from each scout's area. So each scout, of our road scouts, we do a phenomenal job of representing that draft class. So our scouting staff is where we want it. Pro and college staff, and again, I got a lot of faith in the people in there. And again, I think you saw the results from the draft class this past year.
Do you let yourself go back and think, if you had your process before this class, if you were able to somehow go, I know you can't go backwards, but are there things that you looked at that maybe would have been different in those first 2 draft classes if you had this team together the way you have it set up right now?
Yeah, and that's what keeps you up. You're always evaluating everything. You want to be perfect, and you're dealing with the ultimate equalizer in human beings and people, and how they're going to react in different situations, and the big city and the lights, and the media and the pressure of playing in the city. So as we continue to do it, we're going to continue to sharpen our process, and again, I believe in the process and the people in the building, and you just got to learn. If you do make mistakes, I think you reflect on it, you own it, and and you learn from it, and those experiences will only help you, you know, as you move forward in those draft meetings, and that's an important part of, you know, some of the experience that I have on my staff. Well, you know, Brandon Brown would say, when I was in Philly, we did this, or Brian Cowan would say, when I was in Tennessee, we did this, or Dennis Hickey, when I was a GM. You know, some of that, you know, experience comes in mixed in with some of our youth, you know, it's really helpful, you know, as you're going through these decisions and trying to make the right decisions.
Joe,
Couple more.
John talked to us about how the defense was something that he was really concerned with. So for you, how will you go about, or what are maybe some of the big stories for you fixing this defense?
Yeah, Dave's and I, we'll go through those conversations here over the next couple of weeks. You know, we're gonna take a step back and look at it, and you know, is it scheme, is it personnel, is it, you know, just run fits, or you know, some of it's, you know, players too. So you know, we're gonna look at all three phases and you know, where we need to upgrade and how we can get better.
Joe, it's no secret you guys made a pretty significant draft resource investment in Jalen Hyatt and trading up to get him. Hasn't worked out. He playing time, he's not happy. He said we'll see when we asked him about his future. How do you see Jalen Hyatt's future here, and how could he become more involved?
Yeah, I'd heard that, so I called him and just because he had to get something done, so we weren't able to talk to him yet. So I asked him about that, and he was, you know, his take on it was there was a question about Darius. If Darius wasn't here, I think that was the we'll see comment. If Darius Slayton wasn't here, but yeah, I still got a lot of confidence in Jalen, and you know, some of it comes down to, you know, his skill set, utilizing his skill set. He's a vertical guy that can take the top off and can run, and you know, he's an explosive playmaker. So you know, part of it starts with getting somebody, you know, in here that can, you know, hopefully utilize his skill set. And you know, again, with Wandell in the slot, you know, he had 93 catches. Obviously, you guys saw Neighbors this year, and then you know, also having a vertical guy that can take the top off. And you know, Theo, thought had a really good rookie season. Really came on, really improved. Really excited about him, and you saw what Tracy did. So there's some young core pieces on offense that have different skill sets that can provide some explosive plays. And get the right quarterback in here, hopefully we can utilize them.
When you look at the play,
Last one.
when you look at the play you got from the quarterback position this season, with all you invested in it, what gives you confidence that you can fix it? Because it seems like obviously it was a pretty big miss, most important position.
Started at the beginning. What was the first one?
So you invested a lot in the quarterback position, obviously, and the results were what they were this year. So what gives you the confidence that you have what it takes to evaluate the position and get it right this time?
I wouldn't change what we did. When I reflect on how that went down with Daniel, again, it's the information you have. And we had just won 10 games. You won a road playoff game. I just watched Dave's for 4 years at Buffalo with Josh Allen. You know, the year before that with Jalen, and Tua at Alabama. So I've got a lot of confidence in the coaching staff. Again, I've got a lot of confidence in our process. We've done these quarterback deep dives the last 2 or 3 years, and I would say, you know, the players that you know we were high on have went on to have solid rookie years or second years, whatever it may be. So again, a lot of faith in my staff, a lot of faith in you know the coaching staff with if it's draft or free agency or who we sign, that they would be able to develop them. You know, I wish it would have worked out with Daniel, but it didn't. But that doesn't deter me from taking and having a lot of faith in the people that are in place to develop whoever it is.
Can I just ask one more? Evan Neal, you guys have been reluctant to move him to guard in the past. Is that something that's going to be on the table, you think?
We didn't speak with him about that today. Again, those will be off-season conversations. If that's something that we decide, but that didn't come up in our conversations with Evan.
Okay, Joe, Dan.